God, just give me revelation for these women, that whatever I can do. And let me just be honest with you. I started blogging because I was in Dalton, Georgia, and I was challenging these women 21 days, because it takes 21 days to make a habit. If you will spend 21 days seeking the Lord with the passion that He says will reveal Himself to you, like John 14, Jeremiah 29:11 through 14, seek me with all your heart and I will show myself to you, John 14, and when you seek me in Jeremiah, I will be found. I was colliding those two verses and saying, when you seek, that He will show Himself to you. So I was really trying to align women to encounter God, and then I felt led to walk with them on this journey. So when I started blogging, it was simply nothing more than Rochelle walking with women on a journey. I never intended to be here 2 years later doing the same thing. So And at times I've thought, does anybody read this or listen to me? And then I will be traveling, or I'll get a message, or I'll run into somebody at the grocery store saying, I really needed that today. And I'm like, you're reading my blog? So I think the weirdest thing for me is I have areas where I've been where I feel like I've stayed very connected, like Dalton, Georgia, and Dothan, Alabama. Some California women that I've stayed close with, some in Austin, Texas, that we, in Sugar Land, Texas, that when I went and spoke, we've all stayed real connected. I get messages from them all the time. But to see local people, that's what weirds me out. It's like, you're reading my blog when I'm at the school or at the grocery store. So thank you for reading my blog. So basically what I was saying is, each day I just pray, if there's a revelation that you can give me to share that might help someone, then please do so. And I'm a passionate learner of the Word. I love the Word. I love to be in the Word. But I do make it a priority in my life to be poured into, and I listen to all sorts of teachers from all different denominations and backgrounds, and I love Jensen Franklin, Louis Giglio, and Beth Moore, and Priscilla Shire, and I love Ann Boskamp. I love Graham Cook and Bill Johnson, totally different spectrum. Richard Rohr. I have like the biggest, I love to read of the old saints, St. Francis and St. Therese and Ignatius, and so I have just a variety of people that I love to learn from. But ultimately I love to just to say, God, what are you speaking to my heart? And that is all the relationship, and where I feel like I've grown so much. But then in this pursuit to be poured into, I get to hear a lot of messages, and so I do like to share those too, for those of you who didn't get the opportunity to be where I was. And one that a few weeks ago, we took a bunch of youth to the Forward Conference that Jensen Franklin puts on in outside of Gainesville, Georgia. That's where his church, Free Chapel, is. And he was speaking one night about Peter, and I think this is so very important, and I'd really never thought of it this way until I listened to his message. But he was talking about how Peter, our water walker, I mean, I love Peter, and his name means the rock, my name means the rocks. I've had this relationship with Peter, and I'm like, he's the water walker, and I want to be the water walker like Peter. You know, I want to be the one that gets out of the boat. I don't want fear keeping me in the boat like the other 11. I want to be a water walker like Peter. And so he was saying about how Peter's the one that denied him 3 times, and he told, Jesus said, you will deny me before the rooster crows. And you think the story ends, the resurrected Jesus comes, and now you've got Peter that follows him literally to the cross, and is so devoted and so passionate, and just such a wonderful disciple to all nations as he was summoned. But what Jensen was saying was, you can only imagine, look at the time period, we're not in, like today, obviously. They were roaming the lands. They probably came upon a lot of animals, and roosters were probably there all the time. And that every single time that rooster crowed, he had to go back there. He had to go back to that moment and say, how did I deny him? How could I have hurt him? I can almost feel in my stomach what it must have felt like, when you've done something that you wish you could take back and you just can't. And he had to live with it. So even though he was out and he was proclaiming the gospel and he was bringing to the kingdom, every time that rooster would crow, and then Jensen went a step further to say, you can only imagine the enemy was probably kicking roosters along his path, trying to halt his destiny, saying, you cannot do this, they won't believe you. Remember, you denied him 3 times. Remember, you're the one. And you're certainly not worthy to be the disciple. You are certainly not worthy to be Peter, the man who's going to build the church. You know, it had to be a battle of his mind. And that has to be so true. Because I'm looking around and all the heads nodding and tears, because he's like, we all have a rooster. We all have that something that makes it really hard for us to live in freedom, or hard for us to follow our destiny, something that keeps calling us back. And mine right now is this whole situation with our house. We have been in this lawsuit for 5 years almost with our house with toxic drywall. All of our money's tied up in this house. And so my rooster is that my kids aren't settled. You know what, we've had to move every single year the past 5 years, and we're packing up right now. I'm in the one little room we haven't packed up yet, my prayer room, and I have to be very, very bold and very strong in my foundation right now, because I know that rooster's saying, see, you think you can lead people to Jesus? You know, you're trying to pack up, don't even know where you're going, because you're not a stable mom. You know, that's how he gets you. That's that little rooster crowing. And I have to war up and stick close and true to my faith that God will not leave me, and he is faithful to the faithful. And we've not made a decision, not because we don't have somewhere to go, but because God has promised me something bigger, and not necessarily a bigger house, but just something more. There is something more that he's taking you to. And so I'm out on that edge of that cliff waiting and believing and hoping and praying, but that rooster's on my shoulder the entire time I'm here, and that's exactly where he wants to be. And I tell this and I share this with you because I could look around the group of women that were with us, and I know we all have that rooster. We all have that rooster, but yet we're there. We were in that stadium with 13,000 children and adults, you know, worshiping the Lord, youth worshiping the Lord in powerful and mighty ways. And we rose above the rooster to get there, because there was the rooster trying to keep us home. I guarantee you that. And I just want you to know that you're not alone. There is a rooster, and I want you to muzzle him. That's what I want you to do. I want you to muzzle him, because we have the authority. One of the things about Jesus, one of the many things, is that he came back to take back what was rightly his. And we now have authority, and the enemy belongs under our heel and not in our head. And I think at some point we have to put him there. We have to take captive our thoughts and put him under our feet where he belongs. And do not allow the rooster to take hold of our destiny. Do not allow him to lead us into despair, to anxiousness, to worry, to fretting, because none of those things are of God. Not one. He says, the fruit of my spirit, love, peace, patience, kindness. Nowhere does it says anger and jealousy and fretting, despair, depression. No, it doesn't even belong. And so we have to know this is not of God. Take control of it. Put it on your feet. Keep walking on. I hope you were blessed today by this message, and I hope that you know that we are in this together, girlfriends, and that God is good. He is good, even as I sit here and in the midst of all of our wonder right now, and know that he has always been faithful. And I almost just can't wait to see how he's going to show up. But I love you, and I thank you so much for your prayers.